Down. There we go. We're live. Awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. So with the ones I've done so far over the course of the podcast, because it's quite new at the moment, we get like a few people tune in over the hour or so. And towards the end as well, if anyone tunes in or when people tune in, they'll probably ask some questions so we can hit that as well.
Yeah.
So welcome to the podcast. Thank you for taking your time out on Monday morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So as we talked about briefly, I love to, with the podcast, I really am trying to add as much value as possible for anyone that's kind of looking to pick parkour as a career or go down any of the sort of what I would call like shadow careers of parkour, because I don't think that there's like a single path for being a parkour athlete, especially in this day and age where the sport is still developing. There seems to be these things called like shadow careers, which usually means you're staying true to parkour in some way. You're using the skill set that you've developed from it, but that usually looks like stunts, or some people do ninja warrior, or all those sort of shadow careers that involve it. And from what I know about you, you've done quite a few of those ones. You're pretty active in stunts and pretty active on the ninja warrior scene, so I'm really excited to dig into that. And yeah, you are also the first woman that I've had on the podcast, first female parkour athlete, which is awesome. However, I don't want to get caught up on that as a fact either. I want to just talk about your career as a parkour athlete and not going to go down any of the politics of all that sort of stuff. So yeah. How's your training going? How's it been post-COVID?
Post-COVID, I mean, I feel like we're still a little bit behind here in the UK because we still have like in place. Really fortunately for me, I've recently been given access to a gym, which is still shut with COVID, but I'm allowed to go and train in there at the moment. So I feel really, really very fortunate for that, because still most people in the UK have no access to a gym. But you know, I've been getting out and training a little bit outside. I mean, when COVID was at its like highest and everyone was in like a complete lockdown, I really wasn't going out and training at all. I just didn't want to even risk like touching rails in public that an old grandma needs to use to get to the shop. You know, it's just not fair. So yeah, I steered away from training outside completely for about a month, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I'm back to training now. It's good.
Yeah. We I feel like if there was anywhere that was good to be in COVID, it was probably Australia. I was still able to. I did a lot of tricking during COVID, so just grass tricking, but we were still allowed to do exercise outside with a friend for most of COVID, as long as we practice social distancing. So we got very lucky about that. However, first thing I want to talk about today, because I was trying to think like about your journey and you as an athlete, and I couldn't come to any conclusion like knowing your story. So I definitely like to start there. Don't need to go too deep, but just sort of what your athletic background was, what led you to parkour, and yeah, your journey, if you can share that with us.
Okay, yeah, I'll try and do like a semi-quick version of it, I guess, because it's probably quite boring. But anyway, when I was younger, I did a kind of a odd sport that no one's heard of called aerobic gymnastics, which sort of a type of gymnastics, but at the time it didn't have any flips in it, so it was more like dance with like some jumps, landing and push-up, or splits, flares, like things like that. It's quite an odd sport, but that's what I did, and I competed for Great Britain, did like world championships, Europeans, that kind of thing. And then when I was 16, I had a hip injury, so I had to stop doing that, and I started doing dance instead. And the first time I was ever introduced to parkour at all was actually when I was a dancer. I was part of Berkshire Youth Ballet, so it was like my county's youth ballet group thing. And we had a show going on, and they had lots of different styles of dance in the show, but they also had a parkour act, which was, do you know Scott Jackson?
Yeah. OG Scott he was like my biggest inspiration back in the day. His movement is perfect.
So it was like Scott Jackson, his brother AJ, and a few other guys from down in Bournemouth. And I met them doing the show. So we were performing in the same show together, not in the same act. Obviously, I had no idea what parkour even was then. So I saw these guys they were like doing wall flips and some vaults and things. Like, I just thought it was cool, but I didn't look at it and think, oh my God, that's something I want to do. I need to start doing that. In fact, the first time I ever tried parkour at all was when I just went down to visit them in Bournemouth. And I just wanted to hang out. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to go there to try some parkour. But obviously, if you go to hang out with a group of guys who do parkour, they're going to be doing parkour. So they went out to train and I went with them. And that training for me mainly consisted of me sitting on the wall doing splits. I'm not sure why I was doing that, but they have a video up on YouTube. Actually, I think it's probably still up. I think it was BMC featuring Katie McDonnell or something, because, well, BMC was Bournemouth Movement Community, and that was like their group. And in most of the clips that I feature in, I'm just doing splits on a wall. But I did also try my first climb up that day, and I did manage to go from hanging on a wall to on top of it, like very, very badly, but I did manage to technically climb up onto the wall. But yeah, that was like my first ever experience of doing parkour, but I still didn't start. Sorry, I'm just like chatting loads. It's because I've had loads.
This is
like, I'm on a wall.
No, it's perfect. It's very good. Yeah, it's new information to me, and it's interesting because I can only imagine as well that first session, everyone would have been incredibly impressed because, like, you know what it's like in the parkour community. Flexibility is not always, or at that time, wasn't a big focus. So whenever someone came through with flexibility, it's like, how do you do that? You know, so it would have been impressive, that's for sure.
But yeah, so that was like the first time I tried parkour, but I still didn't start training then properly. I didn't actually start training parkour for about another year and a half, I'd say, because when I went down to visit them that time, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm gonna try this thing out and see if that's something I maybe want to do as a career one day. Like, it was literally just going to hang out with friends, and that's what they happened to be doing. But then when I went to university, I just recently taught myself how to do a backflip, like a standing backflip. And I really wanted to use this somewhere. I just wanted to learn more flips. And so I joined the cheerleaders, because that was the only like society at the university that had people doing flips. And so I did cheerleading. I did cheerleading for 4 years. I absolutely loved it. It's like such a cool sport and highly underrated. And I think people have the wrong idea about what the sport is, like especially competitive cheerleading. Super cool sport. So I did that, and I was going along to a gymnastics club in Southampton to work on my flips for cheerleading. And I met James Kingston there, and Spencer Clift, and a bunch of other guys who were training parkour, free running, and a few trickers as well, and some break dancers. So it was me, and everyone else was either a free runner, tricker, or break dancer. And they became my friends, and they were like, well, you know, you should maybe try this or try that. Like, I was quite shy at first. I didn't really want to go up to them and ask what they were doing. But after enough sessions of always going back to the same gym, you start to make friends with people and join in with what they're doing a little bit. And then one time, I think it was James actually was the first person who was like, why don't you come and train outside sometime? And so he also took me like up on some rooftops in Southampton, and I sort of got to see that side of the sport.
Sounds like James.
Yeah, it sounds about right. But yeah, that was kind of when I realized, okay, maybe this is something I'm actually going to start training myself. I mean, obviously still at that point, I wasn't ever thinking that might be my career. I mean, I was studying maths at the time. Like, it was just
okay.
But yeah, somewhere along the line, I ended up doing this as a career. So I don't know.
Awesome. What would you say that first moment was for career wise? So you'd obviously at some point started training parkour. Was it sort of the typical, just putting some content out there, and then you got contacted for a commercial job? Was it something along those lines that sort of kicked off that first job?
Yes, sort of. I mean, the first videos that I had, on YouTube were actually videos that James edited and put together. I think we were just out training together, and he was filming stuff anyway. Like, obviously that's what a lot of people in the parkour community have been doing for ages. Like, just
looks like we've lost Katie for a second. I'm sure she'll come back. Hey, Niven and Mufi. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I I think Katie might just have to exit and come back in, and we'll kick it off from there. Oh, you're back? Oh, kind of. The connection's a little bit broken up.
Okay, let me see.
Oh, okay. I've got audio. I've got audio again, so I think we're good.
We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, where was I up to?
Somewhere about James was making videos and putting a lot out there, as a lot of people do in the community. Ooh. We've lost her. If you guys have any questions that you'd like me to ask Katie, then please give me those questions and we'll ask her when she's back. There we go.
Hey,
welcome
this
back.
Is such a nightmare story. It's just my stupid internet here in Sheffield. I don't blame Sheffield, but I guess
that 5G internet is as fast as everyone's worried about.
Well, I definitely don't have 5G. I'm just on 4G.
All right, so James making videos, and yeah, you got your first job. Oh no, she dropped out again. We are having some technical difficulties on the Shaun Wood All Good podcast. It's the first time we've had any, so it's okay. We will be back after this short intermission of I don't have any overlay or anything to play, but I'm sure Katie will get it sorted out. Ooh. Hello.
This is such a nightmare. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's not a problem at all. Yeah, if it happens again, maybe try like reconnecting to the Wi-Fi or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I might have to try.
It's okay. It's totally okay. As I said, for the actual export, we can cut it. So if you want to give that a quick shot, or it seems good again. So, and people are sending some comments through. So it's okay. No one's fed up.
We'll see what happens.
All right, let's try this. It seems to be like whenever James names get mentioned, it just like cuts out. So maybe just like don't use his name.
Well, okay. So he who shall not be named,
exactly,
was making videos on his YouTube, but he edited together a video for me. And then actually the first time I ever thought to myself that this could be some sort of career for me was when I got asked to go and audition for a commercial. I didn't get the commercial, but I kind of was like, oh, hang on, people can make money from doing this. Like I had no idea that was even like a potential thing. Like I had no idea. But anyway, I went along to this audition. I dressed absolutely ridiculously for it. I looked completely stupid. I don't like looking back. I'm like, why on earth did I like wore like leg warmers over my knee and UGG boots. I really just it was like no one.
Hey, I've got UGG boots on right now, so like, it's just like UGG boots.
When you're going to audition for a parkour job, you don't wear your UGG boots.
Maybe not the best attire, yeah.
So I didn't get that job, but then I did get asked by I've forgotten the word, like an agency, like a sports modeling agency. They sort of found me somehow and asked if I wanted to go on their books, and I got a photo shoot through them. The photo shoot was actually kind of more as a gymnast than a free runner, but I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm making money off doing something movement-wise, which is great. Again, at this point, still never thought it could be my only career path. I thought maybe this could be a fun little thing that I did on the side. And then I did a commercial with he who shall not be named. And
oh no! James, what are you doing to us? I feel like he's DDoSing us or something. No. Yeah, sorry guys, if you're just tuning in, we are having a couple of technical difficulties, but we will get through this conversation. Katie's using her 4G internet, and oh, now we've got two Katies. I'll take that one out. We've got now we have three Katies. There we go.
Oh, what? Have you just got one of me now?
Yeah, we've just got one now.
I've gone into just like my normal Wi-Fi, and I'm going to see if that's going to work better. Usually it doesn't. Usually every time I've done a podcast, I've had to go onto 4G, and it's normally worked absolutely fine. So maybe my 4G is just sick of it, like stop using me for podcasts.
So the quality is a little bit less on the camera, but maybe it'll be more consistent. So that's okay. So I'll derail us a little bit. So you got picked up by, you know, like a modeling agency and all of that, but I feel like where you have a lot of value and there's a lot of cool knowledge you can share is that looks like once you realize parkour could be a path and that there was some, you know, there was a career you could take, you've built, you know, you put some intention behind it. You know, you've got a very solid Instagram following. And I think we'll start with the vlogging because you're one of the only sort of active vloggers at the moment, or maybe, you know, you're pretty active at the moment, right?
Yeah, I upload like once a week to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, perfect. So how, that's active. How is that? Because I'm really interested in this push back to YouTube right now for the parkour community. I've started uploading. At the moment, I'm doing daily because I've just set a ridiculous task for myself. But I don't think I'll be able. Yeah, it's like a full-time. It's more than a full-time job. 30 days is all it's going to be. But yeah, I mean, how would you say that that's definitely helped build your image? Do you think anything's directly come through that? Is there anything tangible that you're getting out of that, building like from branding standpoint, or is it just something you enjoy doing?
I would say that in terms of like a career, I definitely have had work come in through Instagram. So in terms of like doing brand deals, it's usually on Instagram because my following there is bigger than it is on YouTube. But I started doing YouTube because I really loved watching vlogs myself. And at the time, there weren't really any people in the parkour community putting out vlogs. I think Tim Sheaf was putting out vlogs a little bit, but they weren't necessarily like parkour vlogs. It was more like his life. And so, yeah, I just thought, you know what? I really enjoy watching other people's vlogs about whatever they're getting up to in their normal life. I might start uploading my vlogs of my training and that kind of thing. Funnily enough, I actually used to kind of make vlogs anyway, but I just never put them on YouTube, and they were kind of different because when I was talking to the camera, it was more like for myself to look back on as like a memory type thing. Like if I went on holiday with a friend, or when Eric and I were traveling like around China and stuff, I vlogged those things but didn't put them out there for other people to see. It was just like for my own memories. Okay. And yeah, then I one day that I'll put these out there for other people to watch and maybe they'll like them. And actually, to be fair, not that many people watch them, but I like making them. So I'm going to carry on.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. Like, definitely one of my favorite things in the world is to watch back on old videos. You know, I've been active on YouTube for 10 years, or not active, but there's videos. I've got my whole like coming of age, like from like 18, no, probably 16 to like now. There's like videos at least once or twice a year or whatever. And now I'm active again. And even if that's just the only thing that you get out of it, sometimes that's pretty cool. Like going back and watching me training in my local area 16 years ago, like there's an intangible asset there that I think some people look over when it comes to doing that type of stuff. And you've been doing like pretty much weekly for quite a few years, right?
Yeah. Actually, at one point I went up to 2 videos a week, and like this is why I just can't understand how people can do daily vlogging, because trying to do 2 videos a week was like literally like a full-time job in itself. I just don't, I cannot comprehend how people do daily vlogging. It's just insane. So hats off to you for trying it for 30 days. But yeah, I've been doing vlogs for quite a few years now. I think about 5 years now I've been doing regular vlogs. I did have a little period of about, maybe it was about 6 months or something, where I stopped vlogging altogether because I was working on movies back-to-back movies, like day in, day out, going to the studios, and it just became too much. And I literally had nothing to film, because you can't film yourself around the studios when you're working on a movie. And at the weekends, well, sometimes I didn't even get a weekend off, but when I did get a weekend off, I was literally just dead to the world. I did not want to go out and train. I was just, you know, couch potato. So there was to film. So for a little bit of time, about 6 months, I think, I didn't put out anything on YouTube. But you know, I'm absolutely loving doing YouTube again. So I started it up again probably about 3 months ago, when I got off the last movie. And yeah, I love it.
As a fellow vlogger, what have you got any tips for me on the length of videos at the moment? I understand that's changed a little bit at the moment. What do you see performing the best there? I feel like I put some, like, there's a couple of episodes I've done so far where I put a lot of effort into editing. And then I found that some of the stuff with just vlogging type stuff in there, like, people resonate more with. There's something to it. Like, some people just like the raw vlogs, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I am definitely not the best person to ask about this. Like, I know you've already spoken to Nightscape about like YouTube and things, and he is definitely someone who would know a lot more about this, because I kind of just put out what I enjoy making. And some videos I edit and I think, oh, this is actually turning out to be quite a cool vlog. And it will just completely flop and get like less than 1,000 views. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. And then sometimes, as you said, a video that you don't think is going to do so well will just do well for some reason. So I'm definitely not the best person to ask. Mine's just like, I don't know.
I think that's actually fantastic advice, because Nightscape gave a lot longer of an answer, but it all came back to that same thing. He's like, put out what you want to put out. And that seems to be the thing already with all the guests that I've spoken to. It's like, be your genuine self, put out what you want to put out. And that's what people are going to resonate with, right? And so maybe you were the right person to ask, because it's the same advice Nightscape gave. You've mentioned your stunt career a couple of times already, so I think we can pivot off into that direction. Is that, once again, is stunt something that you intentionally? I feel like it's probably not. Once again, it's like something just came up, right?
Wow, I'm suddenly realizing that nothing in my life has been intentional. Wow. I just accidentally fallen into everything.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So how did stunts come about? What was your first film? And you know, is that your main gig at the moment, or is it, obviously with COVID it's not right now, but is that the sort of direction you're looking to go with the whole stunt thing?
I would say that definitely.
Just before we go, we do have one question.
Okay.
Niven said, are you getting passive income from YouTube, your YouTube channel? Passive, I guess, ad revenue.
Oh, no.
Nah, yeah.
Like tiny, really. I mean, like, I think it's like every, I don't know, 6 months, I might get told that I've had like 30 quid put into my account or something. It's like, woo!
Yeah. Niven, I think the easy answer, Niven, is yeah, you need to make that as like a passive income viable. You need to be getting like literally hundreds of thousands per video and be putting out stuff like 2 or 3 times a week. You know, like even the Story Boys, their channel has been the ad apocalypse hit them, or they've been demonetized. So not even, these guys have like 6 million followers. They're earning nothing. It's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, I cut you off, and you were just about to tell me about your stunt career.
Okay, so the first stunt job I did, I think actually the first stunt job I did, like the first movie I did anyway, was on Assassin's Creed. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, just checking. So I got called, I think it was like on a Sunday evening, and I was asked, could you fly out to Malta tomorrow morning at 5 in the morning, because one of our stunt girls is injured and we need someone who can do parkour. And I was like, for what? Sorry, like, what is this? And they were like, oh, it's for Assassin's Creed. So I was thinking, oh, okay, it's for some sort of like commercial for the game, or I hadn't really got my head around the fact that it was for the movie. So eventually, as this conversation went on, I started to realize, like, oh, they mean like stunts on a movie. Okay, this isn't like just like a little commercial for a game. This is kind of a big deal. So even though it was actually really inconvenient because I was on holiday, I was away with my family at a different place in the UK at the time. So it wasn't very convenient, but I was like, yes, I will definitely be there in Malta tomorrow. See you there.
Yeah.
So I drove back home, packed my bags. I literally like packed, because I was told that I was going to be there for maybe a couple of months or something. So I was like trying to pack my bags. Something that's quite funny actually is they told me, they were like, make sure you bring all your stunt pads, your harnesses. And I was like, pads? What?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I turned up in Malta to work on Assassin's Creed, the movie. And they would be like, okay, so, get your hard knees, hard elbows on, harness up. We're going to go and like rehearse this. And I was like, hang on, well, I don't have anything. I've literally just turned up as I am, because that's how you do parkour jobs. Because I had done quite a lot. Up until this point, I've been doing like enough commercials to make that my full-time career. So it wasn't like I had no experience of being on a set at all. It was just that I had no experience of the stunt world. So I ended up borrowing pads from everyone. Shout out Lucy Cork. She basically gave me all of her stuff to borrow, which was amazing. And yeah, it went from there. That's where I did my first wire work. That's where I did my first on-camera stuff. However, that movie actually went really badly for me. I dislocated my collarbone, or like separated my AC joint on like my third day on camera. I'd been out for about a month rehearsing, but my third day, I think it was my third day on camera. Yeah, I did my shoulder and got sent home. So it was a very first experience of stunts, really. But yeah, from there it's picked up a bit, I'd say. I've been doing some quite cool stuff, so that's always good.
So what I'm hearing here, and some cool takeaways, is one, if you want to do any stunt work, then you basically need to be prepared to uplift your life at any time. Right? Like, you get that call and you need to be in Malta the next day. And then I guess also, I feel like, as you said, you were found, right? Like, even though it sounds like, oh, Katie's getting all these opportunities where they just find her out, it's not. Like, with the vlog and with the Instagram following that you have, like, you could say I've just been found, but it's also that you've been putting yourself out there for long enough that you're able to be found, right? So yeah, so you've now moved into stunts on a more regular basis. What were some of the steps that you had to do to make that something you could do as a career? Because it sounds like you were thrown in the deep end. I was thrown in, mine was a bit of a different story. I did stunts on Bollywood films for a little while. So that was like same sort of thing. I got a call. They're like, we need a parkour athlete. And I was asked to jump on top of a moving truck for my first ever scene with no safety. There was not even mats on the ground.
I've heard stories.
So I was just like,
absolutely mental.
Yeah. But what sort of steps have you taken from that first job to now? Did you have to go and do a qualification? Did you have to train other skills? I see you do a lot of fighting. What were some of those steps if someone was looking to do that as possibly a career path?
I mean, I would say that especially if you're in the UK and you want to make a career out of stunts, the first thing you need to do is look into the stunt register. It's quite like a sort of strict way that people get into the stunts in the UK, which I actually didn't do, and it's kind of frowned upon slightly, but we won't focus on that too much. If you do want to get into stunts, then you should look at the British Stunt Register. You have to like qualify in different areas, and do like a certain number of days on set so that you understand how the movie world works. I didn't do that though. To be honest, even after Assassin's Creed, I really loved my experience on Assassin's Creed, other than getting injured, of course. But I didn't come away from it like, right, I'm going to put all of my time and energy into stunts now. I still just wanted to do free running. And to be honest, I still now, like, free running is my passion, and stunts happens to be a job that I really enjoy doing, that off the back of my career in free running, I've managed to get into. But free running is still my passion. And
awesome.
As much as I still like, I like training all of the stunt stuff, like the fight stuff, especially weapons. I really enjoy doing weapons work. But I can't really ever see myself being quite as passionate about that stuff as I am about free running. It's like, it's my first love, you know. You never forget your first love. So, what was the question? What was I even getting at? I don't know.
Well, it was just some takeaways. There's the SAG. You've given that. Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked. I'm happy to hear that you're still just as passionate about parkour. I had Jason on 2 weeks ago, and you know, same sort of thing. It's just like there's still this innate passion for the sport, which I'm really already. You know, I've had a few old school people on already, and it seems like, I mean, there's a, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a wave of old school guys coming back right now as well. You know, your Phil Doyles and people like that have sort of just Danny's kind of doing some rollerblading stuff, but he's still active within the scene. But it seems like something's in the air right now. I can't quite pin it, but everyone's coming back, which is really cool to see. And it seems like there's a quite a cool energy right now where it feels like growing. It could be the after effects of everyone seeing Storo blow up the way they have and seeing the potential of what can happen. And not to say it's just them, because so many other people on the ground have been putting in work for so many years, but I don't know, it seems like an exciting time to be in the sport. Do you agree? Or
no, definitely, I agree with that. I also feel like recently I just sort of, I found myself really wanting to go out and train again, whereas especially when I was watching movies and I was really tired a lot of the time, I kind of, training almost got to a stage where it felt like a bit of a chore. Like, I really should go out and train. Like, oh, I really need to go and train. Whereas right now, I'm at this point where I'm like, where am I going to train today? I want to go out and train somewhere. I want to train this. I want to try that. So, yeah, I'd definitely say that recently I've sort of found a new passion for free running.
That's awesome. So something a little bit more down the line of where I think the skills might translate is Ninja Warrior. So you've been pretty active with Ninja Warrior over the years. You did the country versus country stuff, right?
I did the USA versus the world thing, like the American Ninja Warrior special.
Yeah, yeah. Do you actively train for that, or is it just once, like when ninja seasons come?
Yeah, to be honest, I think the most training I've ever done for Ninja Warrior was for season 1, where about a week before I was meant to go on the show, I decided I should maybe try some obstacles. So yeah, I guess you could say I haven't really actively trained for Ninja Warrior. It's more just been, you know, sometimes you get asked to go and do something and it's too good an opportunity to say no to. So actually, I really tried to say no to season 2 of Ninja Warrior because I was really out of shape at the time. I'd just come back from an injury. I did not want to go on the show, but it's so hard to say no. Like if you're asked to do something like that, yeah, you kind of just say yes, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Were you part of the season where Team Champion finished the course?
No, I wasn't. Actually, that was, I think, the only year I haven't had anything to do with the show, because the first 3 seasons I was a competitor on the show, and then after that I was a course tester, and then I think it was like season 6 that he completed it, and that was like the only season that I've had nothing to do with it. So I didn't even know that he'd completed the course, because I'd said to everyone, like, please don't tell me like how well people have done, because there was like kind of a buzz about it. Everyone was saying like, oh, it's really exciting, something's happened. And actually, one time, because I'd been saying to everyone, like, don't tell me. And then I kind of thought I overheard someone saying that Tim had completed it. And actually in my head, it was Tim Sheaf. I was like, oh, Tim Sheaf has finally completed the course. And then when it actually came out, I watched it and I was like, oh, sick, it was Tim Champion.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. It was cool that a parkour athlete finished it, and it's like there's only a few people in the world that have finished the course anywhere. And once again, like that guy trains like an athlete from what I see. I don't know him so well, but he's just through his Instagram, he's a very strong guy. However, I feel like he probably, I mean, I believe he did some course testing as well. But I can't imagine, like from what I see, he's just training parkour all the time. So something that he has done was right. And yeah, I was very proud to see a parkour athlete, because when I went through the show here in Australia, and I did notice this little bit of an attitude from the producers of like, and it was just before Tim won the UK version, and it was like they sort of categorize people within the show. It's like, okay, they're the free runners, and they'll put them on the same episode, and they're the rock climbers, and from the casting, it looks like they have like a quota of parkour athletes that they'll put on the show, no matter how good the talent is in it. They're like, all right, we're going to put 4 free runners in this season just to get that quota up. They're going to give us something entertaining, but we're not taking them seriously as competitors. So hopefully, now that Tim won the UK show, the parkour and free runners might get taken a bit more seriously.
Mm-hmm. One thing I would also say, though, is that I think in the UK it is a little bit different because there's no prize money on the show. So I feel like actually it's
really,
yeah, I think it's the only one in the world actually where there's no prize money. Literally, he got nothing from that other than like a trophy. So I don't think that's
devastating. That's horrible.
I feel like there is like a small little community of Ninja Warrior people in the UK who really train towards Ninja Warrior, but there isn't the same incentive as there is in other countries for people to like make that their main focus. So that's why I think someone like Tim, who is such a good free runner parkour guy, he then actually stands like a really good chance on the show, because I don't think there's that many people in the UK who are like really training just for Ninja Warrior. Not like in America, or I know it's huge in Australia as well. I met the like Team Australia when I was on USA versus the World, and they're just like so into Ninja Warrior. Actually, it was quite funny when I went on USA versus the World, because the first obstacle I was going to be faced with was I think it's called like the hanging doors. And everyone who was on the show had obviously tried hanging doors before, because it's like such a classic Ninja Warrior obstacle. And I was like, okay, so I need to do this hanging doors thing. So like, how do I approach this? Like, how do you do it? And the guys from Team Australia, they were like, what do you mean how, like, you've done the hanging doors before, right? Like you've trained them in your training. And I was like, oh no, I think you've got this wrong. Like, I don't train Ninja Warrior. They were like, you've never done the hanging doors. Like, they couldn't get their head around it, that I was on Ninja Warrior, the show, and hadn't trained that obstacle before, even though it's like such a standard obstacle. Yeah, I think it's very different in the UK, and I think that's mainly, well, maybe not mainly, also maybe it's just people's mentality here and how the show's viewed, but I think that definitely changes how people in the UK look at Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, you maybe met Ashlyn and those guys, Flashland, Ashlyn, big long curly hair. Yeah, he's a cool guy. I'm actually, those guys, yeah, I've got some stories about those guys. They're like Aussie ads. They're really cool guys. I'm actually like blown away that there's no prize money. I'm shocked. That's devastating.
Yeah, I think.
Wow.
I think it's also something to do with sort of British mentality of, it's like the taking part that counts, and the show it's on ITV. It's more of like a family fun show rather than being like a serious competitive sport in a way. So I think it's also like a British mentality type thing as well.
That's so interesting. I think Australia's like the opposite. People were losing interest because no one's finished the course yet, and no one had won money. Like the Australian, like, because sport is like the number one thing here, and the ratings were dropping because no one had finished the course, and we like that champion story here, and people kept falling like 2 or 3 obstacles before the end, and so now they've actually added prize money for fastest. So you get $100,000 for going the furthest on the course in Australia, and $300,000 for completing it. But no one's completed it yet. But a season just got filmed here. I reckon this year might be the one, because, as you said, there's these guys now here that just fully train it like it's a full-time job. Like Ninja Warrior is their thing, 100%. So with commercial work then as well, do you you said you're with an agency now? Do you get much of that Instagram? Like, how do you use your Instagram? Is it more of a portfolio these days, or do you know, are you actively trying to build it? Do you follow all the social trends that are going on there at the moment, uploading action only, or do you just do what Katie does, and then the agency sort of fills in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone sort of who's like trying to make a career out of parkour and you have an Instagram account, you're always trying to grow that account. Like even if you're not like super actively trying to do that, it's always like what you want to happen, really, because a bigger following creates more opportunities for brand deals, and it's also just a way, as we've mentioned before, just to get spotted by, say, a stunt coordinator or something like that to work on a movie. So it's always in the back of my mind that I would love my Instagram to grow as much as possible. I wouldn't say I'm particularly good at like following all of the trends and things like that. I kind of just put out my own training or whatever I'm up to. And if it grows, then that's amazing. But maybe I need to work harder at that, actually. I'm like saying this, I'm like, why have I not tried to follow all the trends and things? Anyway, maybe that's something I need to work at myself.
No, I think this is all very valuable, because what it seems like you're saying, you know, what I'm interpreting from a lot of this is that you're just being yourself. And I think that's a really powerful thing, because there are too many people that do the opposite. They spend way too much time trying to chase the trends and do it for a superficial reason, or just to get the gigs, and the correlations there between you saying like, hey, I'm actually more passionate about parkour than ever. I've got these amazing opportunities. I appreciate them. I'm not attached to any of them in general. And I'm putting out my genuine self. Then that's probably the reason why you're doing pretty well with it. So yeah, I think there's a lot of value there, that, yeah, like maybe you obviously don't need to follow the trends. I've been tagged in a bunch of your stuff, like millions, like not millions of times, but like
Millions.
You know, I've definitely had like your videos sent to me by like people at my movement gym and stuff quite a lot of times. So you're obviously doing something right.
No, why have they sent you my stuff? That's so weird.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think from what I can see, you inspire the movement community. Seem to be very inspired by your work. I don't know if you're too familiar with like the whole movement, like movement as a trend, as a sports trend type thing, Ido Portal and all those types of guys. But there's like this huge movement scene where they do a lot of hand balancing. Maybe it's the handstand stuff. You do a little bit of handstand stuff. And so the movement community seem to really like your stuff as well. But yeah, that's just yeah. So what's in the future for you then? Is it just continue training and being like letting the universe bring everything to you, or do you have any big plans? Were you ever contacted? We don't have to get into the politics of it all, but like for any of the FIG stuff, have you thought about competing in that type of stuff at all, or did you say no, or not being contacted at all?
Yeah, no, actually, did I get contacted? I know, well, I'm actually really rusty on all of the history of all of this, but I think ages ago it was like going to be sort of linked with the Apex guys. Was it the Apex guys? I think it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was either Apex and it was Apex Origins. I think it was Origins. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't feel qualified for this either. I tried to stay out of all that stuff as much as possible.
Yeah, same, to be honest. But I know that initially I was contacted by whichever parkour group it was who were going to sort of go into business with those guys. And I've been contacted about doing that competition. And I was kind of interested, but also kind of just so busy with work that I was like, I don't know. I think I'd even said to them, like, I would love to be there, but I just don't know what I'm going to be doing at that point, because my schedule is just like, as I said, like being asked to fly out to Malta the next day. Like that is what my life tends to be like. It's just so last minute. So I was like, I don't want to agree to doing this competition and then you pay for my flights and accommodation and me take a spot away from someone else. And then a week before I have to tell you, sorry, I can't, I've had a movie come up and I need to take the movie over doing this competition. So that was kind of where I was at with it initially. And then obviously there was all of the controversy.
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 It was a controversy, but it was a controversy.
I was like, this sounds really wrong, but I can't correct it. Anyway, so then all of that happened. And from that point, when all the FIG competitions started happening, I was just never contacted about it, which actually, you know, that kind of worked out for me because I was busy with work anyway. Plus, I think I would have been so confused about what the right thing to do was, because I had friends on both sides of the argument, very passionate about both sides of the argument. So it's like, I don't want to upset anyone here. I think that's quite a British thing as well. It's like, I'm just going to sit here on the fence and hope that people don't ask me too much about it. Yeah, so I had really no involvement with that at all.
Yeah, I feel like if we hadn't have gone through this global pandemic that we've just felt that we've gone through, there'd been the controversy going on again right now, because there would have already have been a couple of competitions this year. So I'm sure that's going to kick off again as soon as it's able to. So I'm sure we'll hear all about it very soon. Yeah. But the last couple of competitions that happened, we had the likes of people like Joseph Henderson, and I think Ed Scott went out and competed. So it was kind of, from my opinion, it was a few of those guys were sort of going, all right, we're going to do this now, which I feel like was going to open the door for some more of the sort of, how would you call it? Like top tier athletes. Not, you know, they had a few very top tier athletes competing, but there was this, like, as you said, big divide down the community. But like, yeah, it was I feel like having Storm have a big presence there like that was a big statement. So we'll see what the to be continued with that whole dialogue. So yeah, so just, yeah, and then once again I cut you off. So any intentional future plans for Katie McDonnell?
Oh yeah, intentional future plans. Well, actually, this year was, I mean, it sounds really stupid, but in my head I was kind of thinking of it as my comeback year for parkour and free running, where, because the last 2 or 3 years I've been doing so much with the stunts, I was like, this year I want my main focus to be free running. And so my stunt coordinator, who I've been working with on the last 3 movies, I said to her, I was like, I really just need to have a little break from doing the movie work. I'm gonna go, I'm supposed to be in LA now, because the plan was to move to LA this year. I was supposed to fly out there in March, and then my flights got cancelled because I've got a working visa to be in the States. So I was going to go and try and do that for a bit, go out to LA, be training with Sydney Olsen all the time, because she's like one of my biggest inspirations, and one of my best friends as well, first and foremost. And yeah, this year was meant to be all about parkour and free running for me, and just trying to get to be the best I can be at that again. However, obviously that hasn't happened because COVID's got in the way. Plus I now need surgery on my ankle, so that's going to like push things back a little bit as well. But
sorry to hear that. That sucks.
Yeah, it does suck, but it's fine. It's just one of those parts of the job, really. But having said all that, I do still love stunts, and I could definitely see myself going back into stunts at some point. I think also the shelf life on stunts is a lot longer than it is than a career in parkour. I mean, there are people doing stunts like into their 40s. I know guys in their 50s doing stunts, you know, and then there's like another route out of that into like coordinating and that sort of side of stuff as well. So I could definitely see myself going more into stunts in the future. But for now, and that's kind of as far as I've really thought, for now, my main focus this year is free running. Yay, free running.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I think, as I said, you picked the right time. It seems that a few people are feeling what you're feeling, and it'll be good to have someone like yourself pushing the good fight for parkour and free running, and moving it forward. Yeah, that's very cool to hear, and it's nice because I feel like but it sounds like more than you realize. You've got a lot of people that are influenced by what you do, which is very cool. So to have you fighting the parkour fight is good.
So nice to hear. That's actually really made my day. I mean, it's only 11 a.m. It's like still very early on in the day. It's made my day so far.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go and enjoy the rest of that day, because I'm sure you've got that beautiful British weather with just a trickle of rain. But thank you so much for taking your time to come on and have a chat. And yeah, good luck with your surgery as well. And thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's been really, really fun. And I'm so sorry that my internet was playing up so much at the beginning of this, but hopefully you can just chop that all up when you do the audio version.
Yeah. God damn it, James Kingston, you screwed everything.
He's cursed.
Shout out to James. I hope you're well. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
No worries. Do I exit?